waiting probably. Hangout is on air live. Looks like it's live. Let me check my channel here. Hello, everyone. It says it's live. We got 8 people watching already here.
Well, if there's 8 people watching, then you're live. So we're hello, everyone.
Okay, we got live here. All right. All right. Hello, everybody. We got 16 now. Yeah. All right. Let me hit the mute and then go back to Hangouts. This is my first live. Well, I've been on other live Hangouts. This is the first one I've ever done on my channel. So thank you guys for watching, and thank you guys for joining me. So you guys are all muted. Is that something you did or I did? Okay.
We did that.
Okay.
So
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I did that.
All right.
We didn't want to step on your charming voice, Bill.
Well, it was just that you all did it at the same time, and it surprised me. So.
Usually people in Hangout do that.
Okay. I wonder if I can make this other thing smaller or something so where I can see the chat. Hello, everybody. I'll say hi to the chat. And well, I've got with me, if you guys don't recognize these guys, I have Jackson Wheat and Paul Enns, who's Paulogia on YouTube, and Tony Reed. So the reason I chose these guys is I admire what all 3 of these guys do. You know, Paul Enns, Paulogia, and Tony Reed are both big inspirations to me as far as starting to do more stuff on YouTube. I'm really fairly new to YouTube. I created the channel a couple of years ago, but really didn't do hardly anything with it. You know, I was on the Kent Hovind debates, and people started to find out about me and started to subscribe to my channel. And it wasn't until really a few months ago that I really started to put up much content. It still didn't have many subscribers, and I just thought I would build content, do a couple of videos a week, and it just after I build enough content, I think people just started returning, and it just kind of snowballed. So it's awesome. I'm glad it's going the way it was. I know Jackson's fairly new also to YouTube, and he's doing well. He's building up his subscribers. So I've got a link to each one of their channels in the video description. So please check that out and subscribe. So, well, I guess, Paul, can we start with you? I wanted to ask, you know, how long you've been doing this, and what made you start doing the YouTube thing, and what's kind of your experience with young Earth creationism? I already know a lot. A lot of people probably know a bit, you know, but
Sure.
give us the rundown.
So I started on YouTube about 2.5 years ago, and 4 years ago, I was a young Earth creationist. I believed everything that Kent Hovind or Ken Ham would have said. I would have nodded my head in affirmation. So I went through the first several decades of my life, many decades of my life, believing just accepting young Earth creationist. I was raised in a Mennonite church, and that was part of, you know, what we were kind of taught, and I just went along with it. And I was busy with I had a software career and a movie career and all that kind of stuff going, and I never really gave it a ton of thought, so I just blanket accepted it. Until one time between jobs, I knew I was going to be a few months between jobs, and because I'd written a comic book, a graphic novel that involved dinosaurs, I had done some research on dinosaurs, and because I wanted it to sell well, I was like, well, let me throw in some of those secular lies that are, you know, about how old these things are. So I had to look up a few details so I could include it. And that kind of started niggling in my head. It was like, is that really true? And so during that break, I bought the Ken Ham Answers books because those were the most popular books on the topic. And I got about halfway through the first book and realized, well, this is all garbage. Even though I believe it, the answers that Ken was giving were not satisfactory, even though I believed it. And so I said, well, maybe I should research what the other side says. And sure enough, you know, very, very quickly that all fell apart for me, and I had to accept evolution. Now, of course, a lot of people who are Christians accept evolution. Those aren't hand in hand. But for me, that led me to a journey to investigating the Bible further. But in terms of my young Earth creationism, basically reading Ken Ham's Answers books as they were destroyed that for me. So I encourage everyone to investigate on their own. Yeah, does that kind of answer the question? I'm not sure.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. Tony, how about you?
I started on YouTube, I think around 2004, 2005, but
Wow.
I was trying to do a music and stand-up comedy career, and that's where it was brand new. I guess it stopped being a dating site. Little known fact for some people, this used to be a dating site, but
Wow.
yeah, it was meant to show video introductions of yourself. That's not why I joined. I joined specifically so that I could promote my music, put music videos, put stand-up comedy videos. I still have some of those on my channel, but I ended up, I got on like 5-6 years ago, just totally redoing my channel, starting over. And I'd always wanted to get involved in the evolution creation debate, and took me all that time to figure out exactly how to do it. And I've been making this mistake for about 5 years now. And when I say mistake, I mean I'm drawing the wrong people. The people that should like my channel, often just go to the channel, see one video, and hate it. Other people that should hate my videos, well, they come to the channel, they think they're going to love it, and then they end up hating it anyway. So it's just funny that I've been the biggest on YouTube, I think, in terms of this whole discussion. But my journey toward accepting evolution and coming to terms with the fact that I didn't believe in God was a long, decade-long process. The evolution thing, I can thank Kent Hovind specifically for, because like my show is how creationism taught me real science. Most of what converted me and made me realize that, yeah, absolutely, creationism must be wrong, is by watching all of Kent Hovind's videos and fact checking every single thing, every point he makes in his entire seminar. So like 7 or 8 videos, 9 videos, I'm not sure, I don't remember now, but that was the process. I was never actually a creationist, but I was willing to admit that I didn't know either way. And so when I get into an argument with a creationist at the time, they could always spank me. But nowadays I've done my homework. And so now it's like I see the same arguments over and over and over again. So it's fun. I don't know what else to say.
One of the interesting things about your channel is the way you go about it, how creationism taught me real science kind of thing. And I think you probably get a lot of creationists that view more so than maybe other people that view your videos. And it's a funny thing. I think you remember this, where it was Paul Humber, I believe, who I actually had a discussion with long before Kent Hovind and everything, who shared one of your videos as evidence against evolution or something, because he read the title. He didn't watch the video. He read the title and he assumed that it was, something making a point towards him. He shared your video. It was hilarious because he thought he was rebutting what somebody was saying, and no.
that happens a lot, actually. I do get that. I remember you actually commented on it like, dude, what are you talking about here? And then you watched it and you erased the comment, and next thing it was kind of a complimentary thing. That was I like I said, I came up with this idea. I thought it would be funny to do a show like that, and I didn't think I'd be at almost 100 episodes by now.
Wow. Yeah, 100 different topics almost.
Yeah. But well, never mind. We'll talk about something else later. I want to hear about Jackson.
Yeah.
Oh, well, hey. I suppose I was never a young earth creationist also. I was raised Christian. Became an atheist around 10, 11. But I didn't really learn most of the stuff that I know about evolution until I was in high school. But my YouTube channel I started in late 2016, right when I went into college, not at LSU, because I met a nationalist in a gold suit with a red sash, and these guys were handing out pamphlets, and it was all this stuff about anti-socialism and government and all that. And one of the things was that evolution is forced down children's throats in school. And so I was just flipping through it, and I saw that, and I went back and I talked to the guy for 45 minutes, and he put out a claim, I'd rebut it. He put out a claim, I'd rebut it. And we just kept going through that for 45 minutes. And eventually he put out the argument about the woodpecker that I'd never heard, where the tongue goes through the head and comes out the nose and all that. Thanks to Tony. I never heard that before, but he said, he had this look of just, complete victory after 45 minutes of being beaten. But now he had me on the ropes. And so he told me to go watch these videos, which it was like 36 videos by this creationist. And they were just taking like all sorts of stuff, like intelligent design, creationism, even some evolution videos. And my roommate at the time told me I should make a rebuttal to them, a video rebuttal on YouTube. And I thought, why not? So my first few videos on YouTube were rebuttals to those. There's a series called Evolutionist. And after that, I kind of branched out and started doing videos about just independent subjects. And so it's gone from there, and I've met lots of neat people. So here I am.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I've got a kind of a long history with it, but just not on YouTube. But I wasn't raised, well, I was raised Christian. I was actually baptized as a baby, Lutheran, and confirmed Episcopalian when I was about 12, I think. But yeah, I can honestly say I probably never really believed it. I went through a lot of the motions and stuff. But once I was about 12 years old, we started, I started racing motocross. I grew up in Michigan, and then every Sunday for the rest of the year, the rest of the time, I mean, we'd go race motocross, my dad and I and stuff. So pretty much stopped going to church by then, other than maybe in the wintertime, we'd go to church on Easter or, that kind of stuff, do the holidays and that. But again, I never really believed in it. But I didn't even know young earth creationism existed until I was in college. I got to college and I had a friend who had some roommates. He lived in the dorms. I lived at home and then in an apartment, but he lived in the dorms, and we'd go hang out and go to some of the parties and stuff and end up back in there at his place, and there'd be these two guys that lived with him that just, they were young earth creationists. Now believe me, they drank beer and everything else. They were just still young earth creationists. But I was just fascinated. I couldn't believe that people like that existed. This was like 1980, 81, and conversations with them, it was just amazing. Well, then I took a course in college, and it was an anthropology class, and I think it was called Chariots of the Gods. It was something like that. If you remember that book that came out in the 70s, Eric von Daniken. And what this was it was a course that basically went through the book and all the stuff that this guy brought up and debunked it. The course was on debunking the book, and it was real interesting. And I think that's what got me really started in thinking about ways that we can use science to debunk this type of stuff. So that was one of my favorite classes in college. But didn't really think about it again until probably 1996, 1995. I got my first home computer, PC. I'm on there, and I stumbled into some forums and things like that where they were talking about creationism, and so I really started getting into it more then. And I used to go by the pen name. Everybody had a pen name or whatever. Back then you didn't really use your real name. And AZ Flyfisher. So if anybody ever remembers AZ Flyfisher, that was me back in the 90s, early 2000s. On Facebook, I was actually almost afraid to use my real name on Facebook, and had a different name that I used for a few years in different forums or different Facebook groups and stuff. But Facebook started really clamping down on that just a few years ago. So I went with Bill Ludlow with my name again. But I was always afraid a little bit too that people might retaliate, which some of that has happened since I went to use my real name. But I was also probably more of an anti-theist back then too, where I'm really not that anymore. So it was a little, some of the stuff I was talking about was a little more controversial or combative or whatever, at the time. So, but yeah, I started on YouTube probably between 3 years ago, but I didn't really put up any content for the creationist stuff until not too long before the Kent Hovind debate. And then, like I explained, since then I've started making a few videos, and it kind of snowballed from there.
That's still the best debate against Kent Hovind I've ever seen.
Thanks. Yeah, I think so too. Of course, I'm biased, but
now your presentation of all those fossils, that was outrageous. I was sitting there going, well, I didn't even know about that one. It was amazing.
Well, but not only that, but then the rebuttal that he knew in advance what Kent would say was just so great.
Exactly. I watched his videos. I mean, I'd seen his videos since 1990s even, so I pretty much knew it. And then, but I went through some of his different videos that he had specifically on human origins and listened to him a few times. Made slides in advance, to go if he brought things up. So while he's talking, I'm putting them in order, and getting ready for the rebuttal. But I didn't spend much time chasing him around on his topics. I would quickly say something, a rebuttal, and then on it, and go right back into the evidence for evolution again. And I think that's some of the mistakes that some people make in debating Hovind, is they let him lead it. They spend all their time chasing him and trying to rebut what he's saying, and he's got an answer for everything, whether it's right or not. He's got an answer for everything. But originally they wanted to do a 10-minute intro, and I told Steve, I says, man, I don't think I can do 10 minutes of what I want to say, so he let me go, and I went about 20 minutes in the opening presentation, but we gave Ken his equal time that he demanded. And to this day, I did put it up as a separate video just for people that didn't want the debate. People asked me to do that, and that they just wanted to show it to people or refer to it, because I really didn't refer, maybe only once or twice, barely, to creationists in the opening presentation. It was just all about human origins. So
yeah, it was great.
Well, Jackson also did a pretty good the great debate with him, especially they started talking about the mammoth, and he came up with Ken said something, and then while he was talking, Jackson looked it up as like, nah, here, I found this paper right here.
The
that was awesome.
Because RJ made me watch one of his hour and 45-minute talks about the flood, and I was like, RJ, I don't wanna, but I did. And so one of the things was the Mammoth Claim. It talks about in that thing, mammoths aren't polar animals because they don't have skin sebaceous glands, which would have kept the fur from matting, and all this. And so he says that they're not polar animals during the thing, and so I wrote that down. I was like, why the heck would he say that? And I looked up, of course there's pollen and also Arctic plants in their dung and that sort of thing. And then he said during the debate, well, they don't have skin sebaceous glands to keep the fur from matting. And so I was like, do mammoths have sebaceous glands? Surely enough, there was a paper, right there. He could have looked it up. It took 10 seconds to find that paper. 10 seconds.
They don't.
That's all it takes. Right.
Yeah, I wanted to share. This is a message I recently got from somebody just on Facebook, just a week and a half or so ago. He says, "Hey, Bill, I really wanted to say I appreciate all you do to advance scientific knowledge and debunk pseudoscience. Your debate with Kent Hovind really helped show me what was bullshit and what wasn't. I've actually used that presentation in multiple arguments I've had with my family's pastor, and for a brief second, I even convinced him once." He says, "I was able to show him that micro and macro evolution are the exact same thing. He dismissed it after he realized he couldn't risk accepting it, but the moment of realization was there." So in short, he doesn't try to talk to me about that anymore. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I will continue to support all you do as much as I possibly can. Have a good one. So that was not a typical letter, but that was a great one. I've gotten a lot of support on that. I'm sure, you guys get a lot of.
Yeah, those are the ones that too. Those are way more exciting than any other milestones or whatever else. Is those messages that saying you're helping real world conversations. So.
Right. In these debates and discussions with young earth creationists, you got to remember you're never going to change that person's mind, the one that you're talking to, especially, somebody like a Kent Hovind, you're never going to change his mind. But, people are listening. People are on the edge, people that are out there. So, if you go about it and do it the right way and you're not offending them and you're not attacking the other person, I mean, you're going to win some people to your side. A good example of that is I met this guy just last week. He came down to the museum where I volunteer, and then I went to his organization. It's the Humanist Society of Greater Phoenix. His name is Luke Douglas, and he's their executive director. And it's unusual in that they actually have a facility. It's a humanist society, but they actually have a physical building, a facility where they have meetings, and they have self-help programs during the week for people, kind of like 12-step program, but not based on religion type thing. Really an interesting group of people I hope to get more involved in. But his turning point was the Bill Nye Ken Ham debate. He was a young earth creationist. He was in law school at the time. He has a lifetime pass to the Creation Museum in Ark Encounter that was given to him by a family member. And I am going to be doing a discussion with him, probably not live. So I think we're going to go film it down at the Humanist Center because we want to kind of promote that too, about how that changed him. So, that was another one of those almost stalemate debates, where everybody on Ken Ham's side probably thought he won, and everybody that, is not a young earth creationist probably thought Bill Nye won, but it was still done well. And, it definitely had made some influence and changed a few people's minds. So,
although I've heard tell that debate, Ken didn't do as well as maybe some of his supporters and his board thought he might.
Oh, absolutely. He's the worst debater.
And they actually leveraged that into a round of funding for the Ark, which is a really unfortunate, weird blowback situation where it was like, oh man, our champion didn't do as well as we thought, so we better all pony up more money. Like that's so that's one of those unfortunate side effects of that debate. It converted a lot of people, but the Ark encounter is probably possible because that debate went poorly. It's a weird circle.
You've had some kind of direct dealings with Ken Ham, haven't you, Paul?
Yeah, Ken Ham is the reason why you can see my face now and why my name is kind of out there. Ken doxed me and has banned me from some events, and I met him in person, him and Bodie in Georgia. So that was fun. They didn't know who I was at the time. So for those of you who haven't seen that video, I went to the Creation Museum and attended an Answers News taping, and I got a chance to ask them if they'd seen Ham and Egg News before, and they had, and they were mocking it and mocking Paulogia as if he's a person who lives in his mom's basement and stuff.
I remember that video.
But since then, Ken and I have kind of clashed. He's been involved in my province with homeschooling type stuff, which my province is weird. It's this Canadian Bible Belt, one little section of Canada where young earth creationism reigns, including in acceptance in schools and publicly funded schools. So I'm pretty active there.
Wow.
Well, you're just a disgruntled father anyway.
That's right. I'm a disgruntled father. Yeah. Although, what William Lane Craig gave me a new nickname yesterday. What was?
Oh,
I forget. Anyway, I'll try to remember. But yes, disgruntled father is my Ken Ham name.
You crossed William Lane Craig?
William Lane Craig yesterday put out a podcast about one of my videos.
Internet infidel.
What is it?
Thanks, Shannon.
Internet infidel. That's right. That's what William Lane Craig calls me, the internet infidel.
Wow.
Yeah. So he put out a podcast about one of my videos where he directly, like, he was attacking the fact that I used the cartoon, attacking my
the Bible says so.
All that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's coming up. Will be my rebuttal to William Lane Craig. But yeah, I kind of somehow get on these guys' radar.
That's awesome.
Do you consider yourself more of an anti-young earth creationist or an anti-theist, Paul? I mean,
I would prefer to be thought of as an anti-theist, frankly. But young earth. So I think a lot of people know that my children remain Christians, and most of my family, most of the people I love in my life, are young earth creationist Christians. So really, all the videos I make are for them. Which is, and I love the fact that all of you are like this, but like that's the reason I don't swear in my videos. It's one of the reasons why I try and make it as accessible as possible to Christians, because I'm really trying to leave the message for my kids. And so for me, it's a dual part. Like, so there's young earth creationist part, but there's also the anti-theist portion. I guess I'm both, but I'm starting to lean towards into the anti-theist stuff.
Well, I've noticed that if you cuss a lot, you start going on the attack and address somebody's shortcomings in an overtly negative way, it just drives people against you. And the excuse is, oh, Tony's a foul mouth, blah, blah, blah. So I don't bother to do that either, just because it doesn't help anything. But, I also try not to be too bombastic either. The worst I've ever got was in my episode on dinosaur soft tissue, where I pretty much attacked creationists as just sitting back doing nothing the whole time. Little did I know that Mark Armitage would end up contacting me. So,
Oh, he did?
Oh, yeah. He commented, and we talked for a little bit. Nice enough guy, but I still think he's a fraud. But we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually some speculation whether or not the Triceratops horn he actually found might even be a bison horn. I mean, his peer review on the stuff that he published was done of nothing. No one actually has physically examined the specimen, and now it's in pieces and parts, and nobody can look at it and whatever, and so.
Well, have you seen the other paper that was dropped recently that says maybe the soft tissue is contamination?
Oh, on his?
No, on Schweitzer's.
Oh, there was something recent, but I'm not up on it.
Yeah, that's kind of a. I mean, because it seemed like there was some question about it at first, and then people kind of seemed to agree that, yeah, maybe this is soft tissue, and now it seems to be coming back around. So
I want to read that, because definitely, I mean, there's some very much blood-shaped iron.
Right. Well,
there. It seems weird to be contamination, but maybe certain part.
Well, there have been some questions about replicating results in other people's labs that have been kind of recurring issues, and so yeah, interesting stuff.
I gotta read it.
Yeah. Huh. All right. Well, if we take a minute here, I want to show if I can screen share here. Let's see. Screen share. Not that screen.
We don't want to see your search history, Bill.
I know, right? Here we go. I think. Oh, here we go. All right, you see that? You're laughing.
Not at you. I'll mute myself.
Oh, okay. Oh my God, did I share the wrong screen?
No, we're laughing at Tony.
Okay. All right. This is actually just what my webpage looks like, the homepage here. So you can see the different categories. There's an about me kind of thing, the blog, store, donate, documentaries, lectures, debates, refuting creationism, and the forum. So anyway, it's laid out completely different than it was. Here's the page featuring you guys. That's one of the reasons I wanted to have you guys on here today. I talked with you all before I did this to get your permission to do it. But what I've assembled here, and right now there's about 50 different titles, all alphabetized. And if people need one spot to go to, somebody's brought up, Darwin recanted on his deathbed, or carbon-14 dating, or Akambaro figurines. There it is right there, alphabetized. You can go to it, click on the link, and it goes directly to your video channel, or to the article. Some of them are articles that I've written and different things too, but I'm not stealing your videos. It's going directly to your channel. You get the views, you get the hits, you get all that too. So it's just a good resource for people. And I would say within a month, I should be up to about 100 titles, 100 different topics. So I'm going to really try to cover almost anything. And if people have questions, or, they want to bring something up, email me. There's a contact form there on the website. Email it to me, or send it to me at bill@creationsciencefiction.com. I'll do my best to if I'm not, maybe I'll suggest it to you guys if it's something that I'm not is familiar with. But there's also some pages like this is on the documentaries. And what I did is I chose I'm a documentary hound. I mean, I'm one of those people where I don't even watch like regular TV or news anymore. I just if I have time extra, I'm watching documentaries and things on Curiosity Stream is one of my favorite channels. If you guys have seen that, I don't know. They have some original content that's really good, but just stuff on YouTube or whatever too. So these are some of the ones on creationism, intelligent design, but there's documentaries on Charles Darwin and the theory of evolution, on human evolution, early civilizations, geology and earth science, dinosaurs and early animals. These are the categories, origin of life and our universe. So it's not just on creationism. On my website, I'm not trying to make it just on creationism. This is my blog, and I try to do it almost daily now, at least 5 times a week. And like you see here, this isn't on creationism. I'm knocking a science headline, where they say oldest human fossil found outside of Africa. And so, sometimes I'm kind of straightening out what we see on those types of things. I might talk about the latest in human origins, which is my favorite topic. Some of the paleontology projects that I'm involved in locally, though, here too, and different things for the state of Arizona. So, but that's really about it. I just wanted to show everybody kind of what was going on there, what it looked like. creationsciencefiction.com. So, am I done screen sharing? Yeah, good. So, well, what are you guys' what are your next projects? Jackson, how about you? What's your next thing coming up? What do you got planned as far as YouTube project kind of thing goes?
Oh, darn. Well, it's funny you should ask, because I really have 2 big projects coming down the pipe in the near future. If any regular viewers of my channel would know that I've done a series on paleontology where I have introduced basic concepts in paleontology, things like index fossils, paleoclimatology, paleontology, which idea for paleontology I actually got from my archaeology teacher. So in the same vein as that series, I'm going to do one teaching basic concepts in genetics, starting with the structure and history of the discovery of DNA. And so we're going to go from there, like mitosis, meiosis, transcription, translation, all that sort of stuff. So there's one on genetics and then another one on zoology. We're talking about basic things like organismal development and, body parts, things like that. So
what's paleontology? I don't know what that is.
Paleontology is the study of paleonomorphs. Paleonomorphs, to answer your next question, are things like they're non calcium carbonate fossils. They're microfossils, generally things like pollen, or what's another one? Conodont teeth. That's another one. So yeah, more of like the softer bits that get preserved, and a lot of times are used as index fossils.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about conodont teeth at the last Geological Society of America convention I went to in Flagstaff. I mean, there were 2 or 3 different lectures where they are so specific in the way that they've evolved that they really can be used as index fossils, and they're using it to help correlate a lot of the different layers and stuff.
Yeah, you've got those guys. The conodont teeth are one of the paleonomorphs. Conodonts are they look kind of like little lampreys. They're these little jawless, fishy guys. So those guys are one type of index fossil. Then you've got the hard index fossils like forams, diatoms, coccoliths, radiolarians, which look like little Christmas ornaments. They're awesome. So you use those to figure out things about the temperature, the climate of different areas, when it happened. If you find this foram, then it was 250 million years ago when this layer was, things like that. So yeah, I got those coming down, genetics and zoology.
So you get really in depth into a lot of stuff, and that's what I like. So, I tend to do, I know Tony tends to do more the overview and the hard hitting facts, and that it's a different style than what you do. Yours are a lot more involved. But I mean, it's good both ways. It's excellent, so you can really learn. I've learned a lot from your videos that way too. So
I don't know. I think Tony goes deep on one topic too. He's really pretty.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, as far as specific scientific things like what Jackson's talking about.
Jackson does just weird stuff that's cool.
Well, maybe that's what it is.
Like
Yeah.
whale sex.
Whale vaginas. Yes, that was
Yeah.
crazy. Whale vaginas.
We actually have Paul to thank for that. Paul and Shannon to thank
Paul
for
and
that
Shannon.
one.
Yeah.
We were
Hey,
drunk.
Tipsy Jack sent $2 and says, thanks for the awesome content, Bill. Thank you. And I didn't know, I guess that's that live chat thing. I hadn't thought about that, but I guess that's activated here. So cool.
And Tipsy, I've read your comment, and I owe you a reply, and I will. Separate.
All right. Who wants to go next? Paul, what do you got coming up? What's your big thing?
So today I recorded with some of the speakers who were at the Ark Encounter protest, which happened a couple days ago. As a lot of you guys know, I cover Ken Ham's news show, Answers News, and of course they this year they decided to completely ignore the protest, but I still decided to interview a number of the speakers there. So look for that video on the Ark Encounter protest coming soon. And then William Lane Craig inserted himself into my life, so that will be following a rebuttal to his comments on me.
Isn't it funny how that happens? You know, it happened to me with Eric Hovind this last week. I mean, I hadn't been doing really any videos on Eric Hovind because you do videos on Eric Hovind, and you do them very well, and you've covered so much. Well, then Eric Hovind shows up at the museum where I volunteer, you know, and films this crazy video where they act like 10-year-olds. And, you know, it was an opportunity you just can't pass up, something like that. I mean, he literally was standing in the room where I volunteer when I'm doing my human origins presentation. And, you know, standing there walking around you saying, not true, not true, not true, not true, not true, you know.
Yeah, that was the stupidest video. Yeah. I didn't even know how to try and debunk it because it was literally him just saying wrong, 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 wrong. But was that guy a bit of orange? Is that the same guy?
Yeah, the other guy. Yeah. Yep. Did you see my video response yet?
Not yet. It's in my play next.
Yeah, check it out because I mean I mocked him on the not you thing too. Yeah, it was pretty.
And
funny.
Stop talking to him on the I Hate Eric Hovind show page.
Oh, well, I only do it to push the little challenge thing. Other than that, I haven't liked the page. I mean, he says you have to like the page to comment. You don't. So, and I've written him there. In fact, I'm blocked from his regular page. And the only thing I ever did, I never said anything nasty on there. I just sent him some messages saying, I'd love to debate you live. And here's the proposal. And, you know, myself and Ken Wogomuth against you and Russ Miller. And I got blocked. So,
Shannon can attest. All you need to do is even quote Bible verses. That's all she does is quote Bible verses on there. But if they're the wrong ones, then they block you. So.
Right. Yeah. All right, Tony, what do you got coming up? You haven't done too much lately, huh?
Yeah, life got in the way. I got a whole bunch of things going on that sort of kept me from doing videos, which sucked because it was right in the middle of a season. But I'm good very soon. By October, I'm gonna finish up the initial run of 100 episodes of How Creationism Taught Me Real Science. And then from there, I'm going to continue doing episodes, but just one-off episodes. I'll also be doing a series on flat Earth. I gotta cover it. Believe it or not, I would never insult a creationist enough to associate all of them with flat earthers. So I feel sensitive about that. I'm also going to eventually do something on climate change. Although if anybody doesn't know, Potholer 54 has already done an excellent amount of research on climate change and debunking a lot of what the claims are. And then anybody that's followed my show knows I've been planning on doing a series, kind of like a choose your own adventure on the origins and evolution of religion. And I intend to cover as many of the religions that have existed as possible. And then also, you know what? There's also something else I want to do, which is very upfront. Instead of doing what I'm doing right now, where you think I'm a creationist and you watch the episode and you find out I'm not, I'm going to do something a little bit more upfront. I was thinking of calling it Read Between the Lines, where I'm sick of seeing people divided over certain issues when we could actually talk about them. So it might be a little bit more political minded, but I mean, you know, I know a lot of Republicans who have dumb ideas, and they're fantastic people. I know a lot of Democrats that have dumb ideas, but they're fantastic people. We don't need to demonize
Please,
each other. I want to
but
do a
please
show
tell
like
me
that.
you do REED between the lines, right? Your
That is,
name?
that's correct. Yes, because I'm that clever.
Yay.
Or not clever. I don't know.
Yeah, I've got. I mean, right now I've got a couple different things going on, but I've just I've spent a lot of time on the website. So I'm like the next month, that's probably my main goal. But videos just seem to fall into my lap, too. On like some of those, but one of them I'm working on is the white sclera on your eyes. The whites of your eyes, and it's kind of a dumb creationist argument, but I've heard it several times where how National Geographic will portray Lucy's species with whites around the eyes and things like that. And I don't want to give it all away, so I don't want to say too much about it, but it'll be a couple chuckles in there along with it too. So we had a question. We can do some Q&A now too, if you guys are ready. We have Operation Shiraki Freedom is asking Paul, can or does Paul have a series on how to adapt to life as non-YEC and Christian?
I have not done a series on that. That might be interesting. I do have on my Discord server a room specifically for former Christians who have recently come out. So we kind of commiserate and have a little community of those of us who've recently left. But I would love to know more about, if people were interested in that, what they would want to see, I guess. Yeah.
I wonder too, I mean, a lot of times what I see, and it may not be all the time, I don't even know what percent it is, but a lot of people leave YEC. When they leave YEC, they leave Christianity. I mean, I think that's one of the dangers that they run into in teaching on earth creationism is people get to a certain age or education level or whatever, and they realize that they believe they were lied to, and they get pissed off,
Well, absolutely. And as the more fundamentalist you are, the more black and white you're taught to see things. And I was taught to say that if only 99% of the Bible was true, then all of it was false. That was literally taught. That phrase was used all the time. And as soon as I learned that 1% of it was wrong, that was a quick shatter point for me. And I've heard that story over and over. So yeah, if you're a Christian leader out there and you don't want your people to deconvert, maybe be a little softer on some of these stances.
Right. Hey, I'm looking for questions now. If you guys asked them earlier, I wasn't watching the whole chat, so I apologize for that. But if you want to direct them and direct it to me, even if they're for somebody else, so it stands out on there, send in some questions. Yeah, at Bill Ludlow. So, yep. So.
I have you were talking earlier. Sorry, I hate to.
Sure.
I hope I didn't interrupt you, Paul. But
nope.
You were talking about Jackson's way of talking about things and the way I do it. First of all, Jackson goes really deep into subjects, and I've often thought, there you are. Oh, good one, by the way. I've always thought that there's everybody learns differently, everybody teaches differently, and Jackson teaches differently than I do. But I tell you, when Jackson's videos, come on, I immediately put them at the front of my list, and I watch. That's the first thing I watch. I love his videos. They're freaking amazing. He goes just as deep as I do. But the thing is, if you're watching him or you're watching me, you're learning one way or another. And gosh, I mean, some of the stuff you've done, Jackson, I've sat there going, how did you find that?
I have an excellent editing team.
Okay.
That's secret to my success.
Wait, where do you get an editing team?
Yeah, where do you get that?
All right, about to name drop everybody. Here we go. All right, obviously RJ, RJ Downard. Which fun fact, funny story for everyone. Tony introduced me to Paul. Paul introduced me to RJ. There we go. And so, I have RJ. I have Rational Mind, and I have Nestle. Rational Mind and Nestle are both biologists. And
but you're talking about like a peer review team then.
Yeah, they look over my stuff, and they.
Yeah, I thought maybe you meant like someone who literally like sat in Premiere and edited your videos for you.
Oh no, I mean they edit my scripts.
Yeah. No, and I would actually highly recommend that for anyone out there. Like, I think I've passed scripts to all of you. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's a strength of this kind of attitude, is like, you know what, we just want to get information out there, and we're all willing to. People probably aren't aware that behind the scenes, all of us message each other about, have you thought about this fact, or can you look at this script? I mean, I've relied on all of you for things at various times.
And so, I learn a whole lot, because it's so funny, because I put my, I'll write the script first, I'll draft it, and then I'll send it off to all of them, and they'll look it over, and they'll go, we're gonna add stuff here, we're gonna add stuff here, we're gonna add stuff here. Here's this source that's for this. Here's this source. Check out this paper. And so we're all learning stuff from each other, and so it's awesome. And so by the end, if anyone's, I think it just buries the any opponents we might have. Like I never get creationists to engage with me on the actual data I present. I never do. That's always like these vague canards, like they just throw out kinds or information, but they will never actually engage with the subject of the material, because they just get buried in how much data there is. So,
although I would also compliment everyone here that I think I've seen all of us here, posting comments of, oh, we made this mistake or that mistake in the video. Sorry about that. Like, and we pinned the comment that, oh, we made a mistake. That's something you can never hear a creationist say.
That's right. Yeah.
I that's my grand finale for every season, is making fun of myself for all the mistakes I made.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I re-uploaded a video because I screwed it up so badly. My Chromosome 2 video, I had a bunch of errors in that one, and so I pulled that one down, sent the script to be. That was actually like one of the first where I had it edited and all that. And then once they fixed all the errors and stuff, we put it back up, and it's way better now than it was before. So
we got a question. Omaros Moon asked, Bill Ludlow, did you get your keyboard fixed? Yes, I did. So I had an accident last week where this was on a laptop that I used for my business, and an entire Blue Moon beer was spilled onto the keyboard of the laptop. It worked fine for about an hour, and then as soon as it started to dry out, the keys started all sticking and gumming. So, but yeah, $12.45 for a direct replacement through Amazon.com, and a friend of mine that used to be a Dell computer technician replaced it for free. So that was awesome. Let's see. Can evolution disprove God? That's a good question, huh? I would have to say, I don't think evolution disproves any religion. It just depends on how you're building your religion and what your religious beliefs are. I mean, God is a pretty broad thing up there. So I think theistic evolutionists and deists and people like that have no problem with it. So, well, you guys got anything to add to that?
I don't really think it has anything to do with religion at all,
Right.
or at least the belief in God. But I mean, I don't happen to believe in God, but I would never say I wouldn't say I would bet my arm that there's no God. But yeah, evolution itself, all it does is at best, it definitely refutes a creationist interpretation of the Bible. The rest of the Bible, I would say, probably refutes itself, but it has nothing to do with whether or not there's a God.
All right.
Didn't know that.
Let's see. Shannon Q asks, why is Paul so hot? I don't know. I guess he's got a good-looking girlfriend, and he has to maintain himself in order to keep that.
I don't deserve her, but yeah.
Maybe he doesn't have air conditioning. I don't know.
Yeah, it's more.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, they don't have air conditioning in a lot of those homes up in the Great White North.
We don't have enough hot days to warrant. No, you'd be paying $200 a day based on the number of days that it's worth it. So
yeah, no, here it stays 110 straight for 4 months. We have to have it here, but
same here in Vegas.
Yeah. Jay Scott says, thanks for reading my message, Bill. That really meant a lot to me. You're welcome, and the message meant a lot to me too. So, yep. That was the message I read earlier online.
Nice.
What else we got here for questions, guys?
I have a question for the panel. Is there anything you've heard recently that was interesting from a creationist? Like, have we heard any new angles or any new arguments that are, even if they're false, that are at least novel?
I heard one. Oh, do you want me to say it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was actually the cause for my Frank Turek video. He did actually I was watching Vice Rhino. I like Vice Rhino's videos also. And we have Vice Rhino here now, don't we, Paul? But
that's been disproven somehow.
But I was watching his video. He does one on rebutting Frank Turek, and one of the things Turek says is evolution. The Darwinists never talk about how we're related to plants. And I sat there and I was like, the what? And so we made the flower evolution video just for Frank. So we almost had him on too.
That one was necessary because so much of taxonomy started off with botanists.
That's true.
It was very necessary, and I didn't.
Linnaeus was a botanist.
Yeah, I know exactly. I covered that, but I did not want to cover botany, and thankfully you did, so I don't have to.
It's a gigantic subject. I don't really like plants all that much. That's why I'm going to be a zoologist. But they're pretty neat sometimes. They're all right.
I can't even take care of a plant. I'm Tony the Mighty Plant Killer.
Guzman1611 asks, have you heard of Vesperosaurus yet? I haven't. I know you mentioned it to me before. I haven't looked it up. You're an intelligent young man, Guzman1611. I'm going to make a paleontologist out of you yet. So we're going to help you get through that young Earth creationist phase you're going through. And you really ought to study paleontology and stop listening to Ken Hovind. So.
Did he say Vesperosaurus or Hesperosaurus?
It says Vesperosaurus. Yeah. Not familiar with that one.
I think he means Hesperosaurus.
Yeah, I've never heard of Vesperosaurus, and I'm looking it up, and I see a Vesperosaurus on DeviantArt, but I've never heard of Vesperosaurus.
Okay. Well, we got doesn't billions of light years refute YEC? Well, yeah, it does. I mean, the fact that we can see billions of light years, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that refute YEC.
Oh, wow. The thing is, the next episode I'm doing is going to be on white hole cosmology, which was brought up in Jackson's debate with Standing for Truth. But there's an entire, his idea of how the mass of this gigantic base of water expanding outward. I had to actually learn some quantum mechanics. I had to actually go and spend a lot of time with some quantum mechanic textbooks just to refute it. But that'll be the next thing that's coming up. That's the only thing that even seems to have it make any sense. The other, I've addressed all of the different ways that we could have a young universe with kind of nice dog, by the way, with a kind of the light speed that we have. I've addressed the wave particle duality, which was ridiculous. And you were asking about new arguments. The wave particle duality one threw me for a loop. Some guy just prodded up. I've got it on my list of videos. But yeah, the age of the Earth and the light speed thing, yeah, that definitely does refute YEC in at least 4 different arguments.
Okay, there's a $5 donation. Thank you. He asks, in all species that evolved among bacteria, microorganisms, etc., what was the first to not reproduce asexually? What did true male-female mate with? I have no idea what the first was. I'm not a biology
That
person.
would have been some early eukaryote.
The thing is, there's not just one sexually reproducing lineage. I mean, there's several. I mean, even in our lifetime, I've done an episode on this too, about the idea of outcrossing. There's a definite gradient between sexual and asexual reproduction. It and the advantages of what's called outcrossing is easy. I mean, you can see how it, number one, it removes deleterious mutations, but it also helps you actually helps a population become more adjusted to a particular environment, especially with parasites around. As far as what the species was, it doesn't matter.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Cajun Crustacean, thank you for the donation, asks, what's the average airspeed of an unladen swallow? I don't have enough information there.
Would it
have you seen my
African or European
African
swallow?
or European swallow. That's the answer.
That's the answer. Yeah, that's right.
But thank you for the
Python
question.
reference.
Yeah. All right. Have we?
But where does he carry the coconut?
They could put a line between the two of them.
What's the main argument from the YEC to the light year evidence? As I understand it, I mean, what I hear mostly from YECs is that just like God created Adam with age or whatever, he created light in transit, or he created the universe with the appearance of age.
That's one, but the other one is the stretching the heavens, right? So in several times in the Old Testament, it talks about God stretching the heavens, and the argument is that God could have moved space faster than he moved light, and there's no way to really disprove that. So that therefore the light, would have been very, very redshifted at start, but eventually caught up.
The other one is Russell Humphreys, and again, this is the one I'm addressing. His argument is that at one point in time, Earth was in the middle of a gigantic gravitational well because, of course, Earth is at the center of the universe, and as the water expanded, it still stayed in this gigantic gravitational well as the stars were being created. And so, because it was in a gravitational well, time flows more slowly in a gravitational well. So the 7 days of creation were considerably slower than the days of, I guess, that were existing outside of our gravitational well. So all of that light actually did travel that many light years in that much time, but it just looks like it's instantly here because we were
It's like time dilation.
Yes, it is time dilation. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Doesn't Jason Lyle say that like light moves instantaneously in one direction?
Yeah, Jason Lyle. Yeah, he argues that in one direction it goes faster than the other direction, which is ridiculous.
And
what was that?
Yeah. Oh, that was my phone. I have the sound of from one of the
From Legend of Zelda. Yeah,
Ocarina of Time.
I knew it.
Yeah. So, but the thing about Jason Lyle and his idea that there's a one-way speed of light, it's already disproven in 1987. There was a supernova that exploded obviously. At any rate, so the light from the center of it is hitting us in real time. It's coming directly at us. Jason Lyle's idea is that it's instantaneous until it hits something and then reflects off of it. Well, if that's true, supernova SN 1987A is 163,000 light years away from us. If the light from the nova itself is hitting us, we shouldn't be seeing the rings that the light is bouncing off of for another 163,000 years. But there we are. So obviously, just that one natural phenomenon disproves Jason Lyle's idea. And so there you go.
Yep. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions here, guys. Maybe we've answered everything. So
I have a question. Tony and Bill, are you guys going to go to Faithless Forum next year?
Where is it?
Is that the one? Isn't it going to be in? I don't know.
Dallas.
Where is that? Oh, that's
It'll
Dallas.
be in Texas
in
somewhere.
Dallas. Yeah.
In
Texas
Texas somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was just in Dallas, but this past year. So.
Well, I can tell you one thing, Jackson. I'm actually going to be in New Orleans next year.
Oh boy, we got to meet up.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to meet up. We'll do something online.
That was where I met with Scientist Mel.
Yes, I know. That must have been awesome.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And I'm not too far from Arizona, so I keep thinking I'm going to head out and surprise Bill at the museum, watch his lecture, and ask dumb questions, and then hopefully I'll sing karaoke with you later.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody asked me, Tipsy Jack asked, could you make more videos of your adventures in the field? Also a video of the Iron Range you tweeted about. I did, it was my blog. I put it on Twitter and stuff about the Iron Range in northern Minnesota and some of the amazing banded iron formations they have up there. They're just beautiful. And some of it was uncovered by glaciers. So there's big uncovered areas of banded iron. Banded iron would be a really good video topic, and I could cover some of that. I have some pieces here in my collection, and it could show some of those. The videos in the field, I'd like to do more. I don't have a good video camera. So what there'll be probably is images. I did take a trip this year. I had a friend who I met on Facebook, just a friend, Ollie, who came and visited. He visited several Facebook friends, other people he knew in the United States. He was here for about a month, started on the East Coast, worked his way to the West Coast, spent 2 days here in Arizona, and we did a trip up. We had 2 days, so we went to the Grand Canyon for 1 day. We stayed overnight in Flagstaff. The next morning we were at Meteor Crater when they opened at 8 a.m. From there we headed east and stood on the corner in Winslow, Arizona. And then from there, a little farther east to the Petrified Forest, back down, or the Painted Desert, back down through the Petrified Forest, and ended up on the Mogollon Rim, where I discovered the 270 million year old reptile tracks that I've been working on. So we did this whirlwind tour of Arizona for 2 days of the geology and paleontology. It was awesome. And I've got a lot of photos from that. I can do some more on that. Part of the problem with some of the stuff I'm working on is it's under federal permit right now, and I can't disclose the exact location. So I can make a video talking about it all, but I have to be careful in that I don't really give away where it's at, and just because it's under permit right now, and they don't want you to do that until the permit's gone, and then I can talk about where it is all I want. But while we're collecting the data and doing the work, I've got to kind of keep it under wraps. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's like what they were doing with the Tanis site recently.
Yeah, the Tanis site was big secret.
Yeah, and then they kind of, I mean, a lot of big red flags though, also, because they're like, hey, let's release it to the popular press first with only one paper published. It's like, that's weird, but all right.
Yeah, that particular paleontologist had been burned in the past before with this
Palma,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of get why they did there, plus the New York Times. I also understand why they wanted to release the day before. It feels sketchy, but I get it, right? Like, because their funding comes from a lot of...
I mean, it also seems like, at least as far as even if, he hasn't released information on the alleged dinosaur remains yet, the impact site itself is already, it seems good. Yeah. The sedimentology is evidently worked out, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, that Tanis find was my favorite thing this year so far.
More favorite than seeing me? Oh, man.
No. It's in a scientific paper. Seeing you.
I have to say that the Susqueterranosaurus hazeli was my favorite paper in Nature this year. The one that was right here in Arizona, and that dinosaur was discovered by a 14-year-old volunteer at the museum where I volunteer. I'm one of the field outings. Now, it happened almost 20 years ago. That 14-year-old volunteer is a doctor of paleontology now at a university. I mean, but that changed the course of his life. And he was a volunteer at the museum where I volunteer, and the Associated Southwest Paleontological Society, which is associated with the museum, has these outings where people go out on actual digs and different things like that. And he discovered a new species. Now, it was 20 years later before it's published. There's a lot of reasons why. Some of it's political, some of it's just, it just took a long time they ended up going back and doing other excavations and stuff too. But I mean, that's an amazing discovery, and it was done by a 14-year-old child. Had that 14-year-old child believed the Earth was 6,000 years old and people rode dinosaurs, he would have never been able to make that discovery. So that's, if he was a young Earth creationist, he wouldn't have been involved in the type of thing where it could have led to a discovery like that, is what I'm saying. So that's why it's important that we disprove some of this stuff and put kids on the right track. You, Guzman 1611, I'm talking to you. He knows who he is. I've talked to him before. So there's another question. How come people today don't live as long as Noah? It's a myth.
Well, Noah didn't live as long as they say Noah.
That's right.
So, yeah.
What else we got here? What's my favorite Ninja Turtle? Oh, boy. You know, I kind of grew up before that. I graduated high school in 1980. So I can't say I've ever watched the Ninja Turtles.
I'd have to go with Raph.
Which one likes the pizza?
They all like pizza.
Oh, I like pizza. Okay, then I like them all.
I'm a Donatello fan. I always like the bow staff.
I was after that. Sorry, guys. Bill was before, I was after. There you go.
All right. Well, anyway, I want to thank everybody. Oh, here we got a couple of people kicking in a buck or two here. How do I find source for geological strata in Tennessee? You should be able to go online and find that. I know here in Arizona, the state puts it out, but I mean, most states have a geological survey, or there's the USGS websites where you can find topographic maps that have the geological information, the layers and stuff on them. You know, if you can't find it, call your local museum. Honestly, the people at the desk could probably, I mean, people, they get calls like that all the time at the museum, and they don't mind answering those questions. You know, you're saying, I would live over here. How can I find out how old the strata is? Well, they might be able to direct you to the site where you can just find that out. And a lot of it's online for free now. You don't have to pay and buy maps like you used to once have to do. What does it mean if a fossil still has soft tissue? Well, I think the biggest thing there, and we've all made videos talking about this and talked about this, the biggest thing there is soft tissue is a type of tissue. It's describing a type of tissue, of organic material. It's not describing soft, stretchy tissue, you know, and I think that's one of the misunderstandings Christians have, or young earth creationists have. Yes, some of it has been able to be stretched and things like that, but it's not found in that state. It is soaked in acid for days, if not, in the case of Armitage, weeks, in order to remove permineralization and that from the fossil in order to make it flexible. And they're encased inside permineralized bone when they're found. They're not exposed to the elements. These are things that have basically been locked up inside of a rock for millions of years. It's not hard to keep something preserved when it's locked up inside of a rock, and it was quickly preserved, we believe, with iron as a preservative from hemoglobin. So
in addition to the there's hydroxyapatite, which is in the bones, but also the structure of collagen itself is very stable. It's like this. It's like a triple structure.
A triple helix, yeah. And that's the weird thing is that, you know, things like collagen, which makes up antlers and bone and things like that, is considered soft tissue. So when they say soft tissue, you almost have to ask, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Not to mention that
consider an antler soft tissue, well then, yeah.
You know, what was it? Eric Hovind had an image out, and I called him out on this years ago. Of course, he never answered, but he showed soft tissue. He put a picture up on his thing or whatever, and it was a piece of bovine aorta or something that was stretched out of Wikipedia.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't dinosaur soft tissue. They're just totally misrepresenting what was found. So
that's great.
Somebody asked if I saw Eric when he stopped by the museum. No, I mean, in the summertime right now, I'm only there Wednesdays, usually for a few hours. When the school is on during the week, I'm there more often. I've also worked really hard to train some other people to do what I do there. So I'm not there every day. I do it as a volunteer, and I do it mainly between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. when the children are there on field trips. So if he came in, I think on a Sunday, I wouldn't have.
So now you've just told Eric when not to show up.
Kind of.
Yikes.
I don't think he'll be back there.
No.
When does a species become a different species for another? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, a lot of they estimate, let's say with mammals at least, in that it takes about 1 million years for speciation to occur. So
no, it depends based on there's a lot of factors involved, but it very much depends.
Well,
If
it does
you-
depend
if-
a lot. Yeah. But
well,
I mean,
if there was go from the equator, around the equator, I think the mean age of sister species is like 3.4 million years. But as you approach the poles, it's closer to about 1 million years for the age of sister species.
are you saying that 1,000,000 years is too quick or 1,000,000 years is too long?
I'd say it's too
long.
low or it's too short. I would say
Too
Usually
short?
it takes-
Yeah.
usually, or a lot of species, it takes. For a lot of species, it takes longer. Although in the instances of things that have shorter lifespans, like murines, for instance, the mice and rats, it can take less time, of course, because they've got shorter lifespans. They're producing lots of variants, and so it's more likely they're going to disperse and develop genetic dissimilarities and become new species.
Well, the biggest thing is it depends on too. Yeah, is there any gene flow in between two at all? I mean, are they completely
Right.
separated? Are they? Yeah. So,
Well, there was a species of worm called Naresa cumanata that was picked up on the West Coast, and just one population, and then part of that population was separated and taken to the East Coast. I mean, I'm talking of the U.S. for our people that are in another country, over in Maryland, and for about 20 years they never crossed these two together. Then they brought the two together, and only after 20 years. The populations from the East Coast were no longer able to reproduce with the populations from the West Coast. So, I mean, it's a possibility it could happen just in 20 years.
Well, and the London mosquito is the other example I was thinking of, right?
Be careful with that
Jackson,
example. Be careful
okay,
with
good.
that example, though, because
I was hoping you'd say that.
someone called me on that one, actually, the Culex pipiens example, because I actually read about it first in Bill Nye's book, Undeniable. And so I started putting it in stuff, and then someone called me on it. There's actually a lot more in that example than just the mosquitoes were underground and then there was a speciation event. So there's more there.
Do you have a video on that, Jackson?
Personally, no.
Why don't you? And why can I call you on that now?
You can absolutely. It still exists. It probably in my the macroevolution video I did way back. I think that example is in there. A better example though is the Podarca sicula, the Italian wall lizards. These researchers took a population of them in the 90s, put it on a different island. They took them from Podcopiste, moved them to this other island, Podmakaru, and the ones on Podmakaru developed cecal valves, which helped them digest plant matter because they became herbivorous instead of insectivorous. So they developed a new niche. There's more of them now. The population density is higher because they're not competing for space to eat insects. There's a whole bunch of different dynamics that have gone on in just 30 years or so. Yeah.
Are they speciated? I mean, can they reproduce?
I think they're still the same. I think they're still considered the same species, but they're like on the way, it seems, to becoming new species.
God's creation says liar, liar, liar. I just want to say thank you for stopping by, and I hope you subscribe.
But which three of us? That means one of us is a truth teller, and three of us are liars. So we have to identify.
DMC says, you made my night. Do you have a PayPal? Yes, I do, and it's on my website. So go to creationsciencefiction.com. I do. Somebody asked, what's a creationist? And that's a good question, actually. I got to say, most of the time when I talk about creationists, I'm talking young earth creationists. I know there are old earth creationists out there, but for the most part, when people are talking about creationists, they're talking about young earth creationism and creationists, because old earth creationists don't go around calling themselves old earth creationists that often, unless you're Hugh Ross or Fuzz Rana or somebody like that. The typical Christian who believes the earth is old and evolution had a part in it, or maybe doesn't go around calling themselves a creationist.
I've seen a definition of creationism, and it was from an old earth creationist who was refuting the idea that I'm misrepresenting creationism as all young earth. And when I asked them what their definition was, they used a dictionary definition, which was the belief that God is responsible, whatever sort, for all the variety of life, as opposed to natural processes. And I would say that is actually fair, because it says as opposed to natural processes instead of in tandem with. natural processes. So that's obviously a creationist. It's all God. There's no natural processes.
And before we wrap up, there's a question for Paul. It's a good one here. It says, do you have any plans on making a video about AIG staff accidentally hinting that they actually understand evolution? Was there something specific there, or?
Not that so the AIG staff that I'm aware of recently have been more talking about working conditions and some of the stuff that they're being held to that way. So drop me a link on YouTube or Twitter or something like that I would love to know more about that if that's former employees.
I'm going
Please
to
do.
put you in touch with Luke Douglas too. He's a fan of yours. He's the one from the Humanist organization I met here last week.
Luke. Yeah, he comments on my stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you know who he is. Yeah, he's a big fan of yours, and his story is similar to yours. He actually knows people that have worked at the Ark Encounter and can give you some inside scoop on some stuff there that's pretty interesting.
Awesome.
I don't want to say anything right now, but
but yeah, please do.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So, hey, one last question I got for all of you guys. Do you like your own videos? I mean, it's not like Facebook where they can tell.
You mean like actually hit like on the thing?
Oh, no.
No? Okay.
I've never done that.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Come on.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding you.
You can't even subscribe to yourself, which I...
No, you can't subscribe to yourself. No,
I thought you meant like, do you like your own videos? Like, do you enjoy them? And
right.
Every once in a while, I'll go back and watch an old video and go, wow, look at all that research I did. Wow, I forgot that. Oh my God. But for the most part, my own voice puts me to sleep. So
some of my videos were pretty rough. I didn't even figure out how to do the voice on them at first. So I was just, imaging or whatever. But
I was sent one of my own videos I forgot I did. I was like, oh crap, wait a minute. It was on evolutionary medicine. I was like, hey, this looks interesting. Wait a second.
That's awesome.
I can't wait till I get old enough to forget that I did any of the How Creationism Taught Me Real Science videos. And I start watching and going, I'm going to teach this guy a lesson.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys. This was really fun. It was awesome. I've got links to all your YouTube channels down there below. If you got links and anything else, do any of you have a website too, or just the YouTube channels?
Mainly, we're concerned about the YouTube channels, I think. But yeah, Paulogia.com is a thing. But no, go to the channel.
Okay. Yeah. So if everybody, if you haven't subscribed to these three guys, please do. I mean, they were a lot of my inspiration, and I just really think they have amazing content, and that's awesome. And my site again too is creationsciencefiction.com.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Bye. Thanks again.
Thanks,
everybody.